Hi folks, by request from one of my YouTube viewers, I'm going to look at this Scott Stevens hit on Eric Lindros during Game 7 of the 2000 Eastern Conference Final. As we see, Devils defender Scott Niedermayer turns the puck over to Eric Lindros in the neutral zone. Lindros immediately turns the puck up the ice. Now he's a right shot coming down the left side, and he ends up cutting to the middle right here. And guess who's waiting for him? Scott Stevens. He cuts across and bam! Now let's look at this hit from Stevens' perspective, and it was initiated right here. As soon as Lindros gets the puck and starts his turn, Stevens is already tracking him. He wants this hit. He's been looking for it since Game 6 when Lindros first played in the series, after missing 2 months from, you guessed it, persistent symptoms from a prior concussion. And not that Stevens was only targeting Lindros, he targeted everybody, and that's part of what made him great. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, even in today's game. People say Stevens wouldn't last 10 games in today's NHL without being suspended, but he doesn't do anything all that different from what we see all the time here in 2022. McNabb and Trouba, for example, are defensemen here and now who do the exact same thing, and they get away with it all the time. And there's not necessarily anything wrong with that, again, even in today's game. The danger of this Stevens hit isn't anything horribly awful that only happened in his era. It comes down to one thing that no one was even talking about at the time. Angle of approach. This is actually an across-the-body hit. Stevens, at the top of the screen there, is cutting perfectly parallel to the blue line, straight across the ice, and Lindros is approaching on a mostly perpendicular path of travel to Stevens, which, as I always say, isn't illegal on its own, but it means this hit has to be timed absolutely perfectly to be legal and safe. Stevens is coming straight across, and as Lindros drifts to his right, Stevens has to push off that back right foot and shift his weight into contact to his left. As he does that, his shoulder shrugs out and into Lindros' head. Watch again here. Watch that back foot, and all of his weight transfers to his left, and he pushes out off that back foot and into contact, and look at the shoulder kind of shrug out and up into the head. Now, one thing that would be different today is the camera work. This is kind of blurry, this clip, and I can't tell exactly how much that shoulder shrugs out and up. This would be the best angle, but it's kind of fuzzy. I'd be able to tell how high that arm goes and how far out it goes, but it's just too much of a blur. I can't really tell. Now from this back angle, you can see Stevens is wide and low, his stick is on the ice. It looks like he doesn't move at all. It looks like Lindros puts his head down and skates right into the wall. But from this angle, you can tell there's no contact to Lindros' core and barely any contact to his left shoulder. Look at this angle again. It sure looks like Stevens almost does a complete flyby and misses, and has to shrug out, going almost 100% through Lindros' head. Look at his head move almost completely independently of his body. Now, obviously, Lindros does some things wrong here and makes himself extremely vulnerable, and he probably would have been hurt anyway. But I'd have to ask Stevens to take a better angle of approach that focuses more on going through the core. I'd call it a hockey play gone wrong, putting it in the 1 to 2 game suspension category and maybe giving him 2 games. But isn't it amazing that a famous hit from 22 years ago, 10 years before the first installment of Rule 48, delivered by possibly the most feared hitter in the history of hockey, was only just barely illegal, even by today's standards? And not because of some crazy elbow or launch or something like that would only happen in his era, but because of simple geometry.